Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Three Men and a Book. We are joined by the fabulous Lisa Thompson, who is the author of Owen and the Soldier, which was a book that went. Yeah, Mark's just holding it up. Thank you, Mark. The Light Jar, The Goldfish Boy, and the recently released Graveyard Riddle, which was released in January this year. So, Lisa, welcome.
Thank you.
This is a podcast about all things reading and parenting fails. We just like to have a bit of fun on here and discuss all those things. So I hope you don't mind just telling us a little bit more about yourself, your children, and your books to start off with.
Yep. I came to writing relatively late, really. So I wanted to be an author since the age of 10, and I'm now 47. So it took a long time. So I did. I used to write a lot during sort of my teenage years and in my 20s, then to my 30s, and then I hit the big 40. I was just about to turn 40, and that was the catalyst, really, of thinking it's now or never. I need to write. So I started writing. My first book came out in 2017, so that's how, I think it was 2017. So I'm writing roughly one book a year, or one book and one novella, like Owen and the Soldier, a year. And I live in Suffolk with my family. My children are 18 and 15, so I'm in the teenage years of parenting, which is, I don't really see them, to be honest. It's fine. They live in their rooms, so I don't see much of them apart from when I'm taking them to football and things like that, and that's starting back up again. So I spend a lot of time in the car park at football training. Yeah.
Making notes.
I take my laptop with me now. It's the best. It's the best time to work because there's hardly any distraction apart from the phone. It's that concentrated hour goes really quickly now. So yeah, I've learned that that's a really good place to get away from everything and write. So
lock yourself in a car in a car park. Sounds great.
Yes, yeah, rather than indoors.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's
I guess that's the thing. Everyone thinks being a writer, you have this glamorous life where you have this special writing place and things like that. Where actually, I can imagine you grab any opportunity that you have. So
yeah, you do.
In a car park.
Yeah, and I do think there's. Before I became a professional author, I just thought it's really hard. So therefore I'm doing it wrong. Writing's, I'm finding it too difficult. And then I realised that it is really difficult. It's like anything you do, isn't it? Anything that's...
you need to do well or worth doing.
Yes. And so I thought, but I used to think that because it was hard, I therefore wasn't good enough, or it shouldn't be hard. I should be able to write a book and then jump on to the next one. And so, I'm forever reading other authors' ways of working, trying to find the secret formula of sitting down and doing it. And I don't know if you're working from home, it is hard working from home, isn't it? I think there's so much more distractions.
Yeah. I'm not working, but it is. I have tried to work from home on a couple of occasions, just to mix it up rather than going to the office. And I love the idea of it being at home. And actually, if I've got an empty house, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But when you've got my wife and two very small children buzzing around the place, it's a write-off. You can't get anything done. So I don't. Right, working from home permanently wouldn't work for me, certainly not in my industry, but in terms of productivity, I would stick to the car.
Yeah. And with the Goldfish Boy, the way this is going to make me sound like I believe it or not, I didn't do this a lot, but I used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and write between 5 and 7 before the kids got up, and then I'd do the school runs. And again, I'd made so much effort to get up. I thought, I'm not going to waste this by going on to Twitter or Facebook. I'm going to actually work. And it's that, And again, I'd get more done in those 2 hours than I could in a whole day of, Sometimes it thinks when things need to be concentrated, we're having a time limit. That definitely helps, doesn't it? Yeah. And you've got all the time in the world, you never do it.
No, I agree. I agree. I must admit, I've never tried to write a book, but working in terms of working, I think I work quite well under pressure to some sort of deadline. Especially at home, you've got no other distractions around you if the kids and stuff are out. I can get so much more done if I just say, right, I'm going to literally buzz through this in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Or like you, I get up at 5. But the problem is I've got good intentions, but then I lie in bed, pick my phone up. First thing I do is check my emails, and that's it, time gone.
Yeah.
So setting that time aside and being disciplined, I think that's great.
Yeah.
If you can get away with doing that. I know Aaron's he's a budding writer.
Oh, you Aaron?
I try, but TikTok is my enemy. I get too Probably
I haven't ventured into TikTok.
Oh, don't.
No.
Dangerous.
The black hole for time.
Is it? My sister, my daughter says she's learnt more from TikTok than anything ever in school.
Perfect.
And
I shall save the school fees.
Well, she's genuinely learnt loads, and so I haven't gone down that route at all. Yeah, and I've kind of weaned myself off of Twitter and Instagram. I have, and I don't particularly like it, but I still find myself staring at it and watching videos of people putting makeup on. So what am I doing? This is terrible.
That's exactly what Mark does.
The boys were, it's exactly what I do. The boys were laughing at me because we were talking about YouTube a long time ago, and I just said it's just literally just this big black hole, and you just venture down all these videos, and you could have looked to, how do I put up a shelf or something, and eventually you'd be looking at somebody pressure washing driveways, and there'll be someone doing something with the lawn, and you think, I've lost 3 hours here. I've lost 3 hours of my life. I'm not getting that back.
You see, in that conversation, I said to you quite proudly that I don't get stuck into anything like that at all, except from last weekend. I have to say that I have fallen into the trap. At the weekend, I bought a pizza oven, and now I seem to be watching endless videos of people cooking pizza. And of course, it's not actually that entertaining, but you find yourself watching from beginning to end. Yeah, I finally have to admit that I've lost time to this now, and I used to be quite, I watch stricter timetables. I have been working from home for the last year and a half and managing my day quite tightly. Wow. And now I'm watching pizza. And do you know how boring it is to watch people knead dough? I mean, but you're watching anyway to see if there's a technique you're missing out on.
I think it's fascinating. Maybe you should be watching TikTok videos. I think you should search TikTok for pizza making videos.
I'm not going to. I'm staying away from it.
I don't blame you.
I'm one of those people who strangely struggled with social media, that I don't understand it, so I've stayed away from it. People don't understand. People don't want to know what I'm doing, so why on earth do I want to know about these short videos they're doing? But, I mean, I assume people don't know but I'm doing this now, so maybe they do want to know what I'm doing. So we never know.
Well, let's hope so. Otherwise, it's a complete waste of our evenings and Lisa's time.
Yes, definitely. To jump back a conversation, something that surprised me from when we were talking to another author is they described it as quite lonely, and mentioning getting up early in the morning and being in the car. And I have to admit that, I mean, I've never looked into being an author. I'm very techie. I've always thought about, I guess, programming, which is kind of being an author, but in a very more geeky way. I know I can't link the two, and I just never thought of it as lonely. But that was
Yeah, it's incredibly lonely because you're on your own. It's frighteningly lonely because you're on your own with your head, and that's it really. And but the scary thing is about being an author, which I didn't realize as well, is that you are on your own for so much time. And then all of a sudden your publisher thrusts you out into the spotlight and says, right, can you go and do a presentation in front of 500 children in a school? And before I was an author, that absolutely terrified me. I thought there's no way I can do this. And I nearly said no, but especially for the children's book industry, it's a big part of the job, going out and doing those sorts of things. And luckily, I think I just ran out of nerves. I just exhausted myself. I thought, my body had run out of being nervous anymore, and it was going to be hard going back into that. Actually, I'm doing lots online, but obviously no traveling or visiting schools at the moment. But so it's a real mix. The job, it's a real 1 minute you're on your own, staring at a laptop, and then suddenly you think, oh, there's people reading my books out there. But
I think it's a good thing though to get yourself uncomfortable, to do something that worries you or scares you. And And actually, I think if you do it over and over again, it almost becomes second nature.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
And I feel that people should get uncomfortable, and that, you know, they should pick up a challenging book, or they should speak in front of an audience, or, you know, and I think if you keep challenging yourself, you grow. You know, I wouldn't have dreamt of sitting down and having a conversation with, you know, with authors about books, and, you know, I just, knowing it's been recorded really kind of scared me. We're only the fourth one in, and actually, if you treat it like a normal conversation, you kind of forget the recording element.
Yeah.
But it must be, is it easier when you're talking to children about something you're passionate about, so your books, rather than, you know, if someone said, oh, you've got to go and talk about quantum physics or something?
Yeah, oh gosh, yes. I think and sometimes, yeah, it is really, I mean, children, I do get at the start when I was doing the presentations, I would sort of see that a child fidgeting or yawning and then go faster. I've obviously got to entertain them.
Crowd. They really are.
They really tough. Well, I tell you, the toughest crowd is year 8s and 9s in high school. And I don't, yeah, they're really tough. And year 5 and 6 is generally the age group that I see. Yeah. And then I do get invitations into high schools, and year 7 are fine because they've still got the primary head in them. And then year 8s just don't ask questions because it's not cool. You can't put your hand up. So that's tough. And then I just tend to ask them questions. Then I say, can I ask you? But yes, I think talking about, and I get asked the same questions a lot, which we all authors do with children. And then you get the ones that, like, what's your favorite Disney character, and what's suddenly
crossed it off our list.
Or the kind of, what's your, you know, do you like ice cream or do you prefer chocolate? And those kinds are really brilliant. They're the best questions, because they really, I haven't answered that. Let me have a think.
Take notes. We'll improve upon this.
We'll add these to our next.
Question 1: what's your favourite Disney character?
It really threw me as well, and I wanted to say, can I take some time to think about this?
I don't want to get it wrong. This is quite an important question.
No, it's like someone asking your favourite film, or, you know, those kinds of things.
Kids are savage, aren't they? Absolutely savage. To tell you apart.
What's the oddest thing you've ever been asked, Lisa? At school?
I had, oh gosh.
I like how you think Disney character wasn't odd.
It was, yeah.
Well, trust me, I work with them all the time, children. So
yeah, I had one girl said to me, "When are you going to stop writing books?" And it was
that a request?
Everybody laughed. And I said, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Do you want me to stop?" Yeah, so that kind of thing. I always get a boy asking, how much money do you make and what car do you drive? It's always, wow. I get that a lot. And then I give them the whole, if a book's sold for $6.99, guess how much an author makes? Oh. And then I get things like £9. No. I thought, I wish I hadn't started this. £10. No, it's got to be lower. So it's pence, basically. It is pence. And then you see everybody's sort of, who wanted to be an author, suddenly going, oh, I don't want to do that anymore.
Ring the careers advisor, actually scratch that.
Yeah. And then I try and say, but you know, you can make a career of it, and try and bring them up again. But so it is. Odd questions are great.
Kids are funny. I find that hysterical.
Should we? I tell you what, I wanted to really ask you about Owen and the Soldier. A really tremendous book, and it's one that we love, and we included it last month in our Bookworm subscription, where I don't know too much, if you know too much about what we do. We do an activity pack around the book and things. But do you mind telling us a little bit more about it for those who aren't familiar with the book, who might be listening?
Yes, so Owen and the Soldier is a short book, so a novella, really. So it's 10,000 words, actually, know how long it is in words. So that's kind of a quarter of the size. So my bigger books are about 60 to 70,000. So it's a short read. It's published by a company called Barrington Stoke, and they produce books by authors that are available for all children. But these books are dyslexia friendly. So it's a way for children that are struggling with reading or just want a short read to read the books that their peers are reading. So they might see their friend might be reading The Goldfish Boy and it's just too challenging for them. And then they can pick up Owen and the Soldier and other books. So it's about a boy called Owen who is having problems at home, lives with his mum. And from a child's point of view, I'm sort of interested to see what they would pick up but from an adult perspective, you'd quite quickly work out that his mum's depressed. And so he walks to school, he walks through his local park, and there's a war memorial area in the garden, and there's a stone soldier, and he sits next to the soldier and starts to talk to him, and it becomes like a bit of a confidant for him, and he it's somebody for him to open up to. And then he hears news that the local council are going to tear down the war memorial garden, including the soldier. And so Owen has to do something quite brave to try and save his friend, really. So
it's an amazing book, I've got to say. It's just it's
I've my daughter, so my eldest is literally just coming up 3.5, and my son is 5 months, so obviously not the target age group, but Aaron's been talking about your book for actually a really long time, much longer before than we started Let's Go Read together. And actually I bought a copy and I've started to read it to my daughter, and actually, you know, as we say, kids are savage. And if it hasn't got loads of photos or Snow White or something in it, sometimes she's not interested. But actually, she did sit and listen, which I thought was really interesting. But I'm only about 15 pages in, because we've just started reading it yesterday to her. And already, I'm really looking forward to actually finishing it myself. I just think, and Aaron's already told me that I'll start crying. So I'm hoping that's happy tears. But
it's one of those books that I think that there's always a bit of a misconception, I think, with children's books, especially adults. They don't think they should read them for whatever reason.
I know.
I think something like Owen and the Soldier is one of those books that actually you can give to any adult and they can get so much out of it. I just couldn't believe it when I sat down with it and started reading it. It's just so good. So I was wondering where did the inspiration for the idea come from?
It was one of those moments, really. I'd been to Cornwall, so I'm in Suffolk, so I had a really long train journey for a book award, which I didn't win, and then I had to come all the way back again. And
you should have got the book from it.
Do you know it was won by exactly.
Every cloud.
And the train was diverted, so it's even a longer journey home, and I was really bored, and I just happened to look out of the window as we pulled into a station, and I can't remember where I was, what station it was, and then there was a bench with a statue on there, and it was of a man. It wasn't a soldier, but it was a man with his head in his hands, and then passengers could sit on the bench still. It's really profound, and I thought, wow, that's amazing, that really moving statue, and that would make a good war memorial. And it just came from that, really. I just thought, I could have a stone soldier, because at the time I had to think of an idea. It was one of those, can you go away and think of an idea? So I knew I had to write a book with Barrington Stoke, and I thought, I'll come up with something, and I hadn't, and I was getting to the crucial, I need to come up with something soon, and it just came from glancing out the window at the right time. So
amazing.
You never know.
I want to say, for some bizarre reason, that when you described that to me, I feel like I've actually seen that before.
Okay.
I'm in Wellington, so is Aaron and Chris in Taunton, so we're a couple hours away from Cornwall, but I'd imagine it had been on the same.
Well, I was diverted up to the north of. Is that north? Are you in Devon then? No, Somerset. So I kind of scooted around. Yeah, It was.
I want to say that I've seen that. Yeah, amazing. That just inspired you to write that. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, and I also wanted to write something for the children that are nervous in classes, or the quieter ones. And I was like that as a kid, and I was the child who, when we had to read a class, not a book, and everyone takes it in turns, I used to think, please don't pick me. And I remember that feeling. So I wanted Owen to have those feelings. And
it's the same. It's awful. It's an awful feeling, and I think it's a real nice subject to put in.
had that until I was 20.
Yeah, I had it till I was 40, I think. Yeah, until I was forced to talk to children in schools. Then I had it up to that age.
Yeah, no, that's how I solved mine as well, except it was teaching 15, 16-year-olds. And to be honest, once you've done that, you can do anything.
No, I imagine. Yes. Yeah, they're terrifying.
Then I moved on to dealing with large companies and boardroom directors, and to be honest, they're not scary compared to a very sarcastic 16-year-old. So it's strange how even that was facing your fear on it. So that was actually quite a good one, because I guess that probably the silent majority are people who didn't want to volunteer to read in class in school, and which is silent majority. Of course they weren't going to speak up. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. One of the other questions we've got here is what's your favorite part of the book then? Either the favorite part to write, or the actual when you read it that you really enjoy it, or do you even read it?
No, I don't read them. And in fact, I had a really embarrassing experience when actually one of the questions, which is, this just makes me look so silly. One of the questions I had from a child was, what's the name of the main character in your new book? And I was promoting this one. and I went, oh, I can't remember. And I literally said, and I said, let me have a look. And then one of the kids said, it's Owen. And I went, oh yes, it's Owen on the side. So I don't reread. I can't even remember the names of the characters. So no, but I do remember writing the poem. So Owen has to be brave and has to speak up and read out a poem that he's written. And I remember finding that really hard, so I don't write poetry, but writing a poem from a child's perspective of writing a poem was difficult. So that part, and I think that's the bit that people cry at, possibly. Aaron, you might know.
Well, that was really interesting reading that, because I was like, when I got to it, this is a poem, okay, right. And when I first read it, it's quite short, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I turned over the page and went, oh, that was it. And then I suddenly got into my teacher mode. I was like, that's exactly right. That's exactly what they would write. And I thought it was spot on. It was so
thank
good.
you. I did try to get my daughter to write it. She would have been 12, 13, and it was awful. I said, I can't use that. Yes, yeah. I would have given you a share of the.
I was going to say, the contract might have just been too heavy for the royalties you wanted.
Yes.
Speak to my agent.
So I'm hoping with this question, this hasn't already been answered in terms of this was the award that you went for, and unfortunately didn't win, but it was shortlisted for the Blue Peter Awards, wasn't it, in 2000?
Oh yes.
What was that like? 'Cause that's massive.
That was amazing. Yeah. So I was so excited about that, and the publishers were really, because they're a really small publisher, and they've won lots and lots of awards, but this is the first time they've been nominated for that particular one. And obviously the kind of exposure you'd get for Blue Peter was huge. And yeah, I didn't win, but it was I just loved the fact that I was nominated, and Barrington Stokes have really kind of I'm trying to think what they've got on their stickers, but they've got shortlisted for the Blue Peter Book Award and on the other books that I've written for them. And it's something that I'd always have, really. It's amazing. Oh, there we go. You've got it on your one. Yeah.
Again, he's there, ready.
Ready.
The glamorous assistant.
I love books. I just absolutely love books. I just think they're just a really nice thing.
Do you read all types of books? Obviously, you're reading younger books for this, for Let's Go Read, but do you read adults books as audio books, all sorts as well?
I'll be honest. I seem to spend my life emailing on the telephone. So when I'm driving, I tend to listen to audiobooks. Yes. I know that Chris is.
I am a big fan of audiobooks.
Yeah, I am as well now.
Yeah,
there's only one book I read at the moment, which I mostly read non-fiction books, because it's normally business guidance or programming or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But I tend to read one book again and again and again and again, and I have listened to the audiobook again and again and again and again. And it's The Martian by Andy Weir.
Really?
And I absolutely love that, because I love sci-fi, but I love relating to what's possible. And there's something about that book, because I love the film as well. Not many people, obviously the transition between book and film is obviously a difficult one. And people are always like, the film is never as good. And the only thing the film cuts out is about 6 chapters of technical rubbish that you don't really need in a film. My favorite bit is I think I still enjoy it. I still read it. I think it's great. I mean, I'll give you an example. In the book, there is an entire chapter dedicated to him building a ramp on Mars to wheel something up and put it in a rover. An entire chapter, you know, an adult book, 20, 30 pages. In the film, they give him a crane. And you're like,
just cut that. Okay. Give him a crane.
So I think I could happily read that book again and again and again. But everything else I read is, I'm just looking around me, what I've got at the moment is always, some sort of businessy, self-helpy, or there you go. That's the current other book I'm reading at the moment, called The Heart of Hospitality. Which obviously a very exciting read, which I definitely could not do with my son.
That's the thing. When your kids are very small, you can just get away with reading anything and they just listen. Yeah. You know, you sat there with the Financial Times and just reading it out loud to them. And they're like, yeah, I love it. Yeah. But now, they're not as engaged with that. So, but no, audio. I love audiobooks because I'm busy and I can put it on the car on my headphones, and I actually quite like being read to. And especially when you've got a really good narrator, you know, like Stephen Fry reading something or whatever. I think instantly, I just love it. But I still love, if I go on holiday, I'll always buy a book because I actually really quite like to hold something tangible, turn the pages, you know. And I'm a bit of a nightmare. I don't use a bookmark, so I'll fold the page over. And by the time, you know, a book that starts out like this, by the time you finish on holiday, it's like this because all the pages are. There's just something really quite nice just about holding a book. And so I am a big fan of books, but audiobooks unfortunately rule my life.
I have to admit, it's my ultimate way to relax, for me to switch off and actually just stop thinking about other things, because you know, a lot of what I'm doing, think about this, think about that, and actually when I've got that book in my hands, I just suddenly straight into another world and not really worrying about this one for once, which is quite nice. So yeah, definitely.
Have you has anybody got your books on audio? On audiobook?
Yes. They're all on audiobook. Yeah, they're someone's just done, because I've got another short book with Barrington Stoke called The House of Clouds. So and the two of them have been, because they're short books, they've been recorded together on an audiobook. Yeah, so they're all on Audible, and also there's that free app, isn't there? I can't remember the name of it. Is it not Belinda? There's a free library app. So if you have a library card, you can borrow audiobooks.
Oh, really?
For free, yes.
Oh, amazing.
My books are all on there. Yeah. So I don't really listen to them, but I've heard.
I was going to say, because you haven't read your book, so listening to them is another thing. But you haven't heard any of them.
Well, I've heard snippets of them. Yeah, so I've heard who's read them, and
you pleased?
Yes, really pleased. Yeah.
Now's not the time to say, if I'm honest.
It's a fair question. I think it's a fair question. I think it's funny. At work, at my main job, we just put in a new telephone system. This is going to be really boring, but we had to have a pre-recorded menu, and it's funny because they just emailed me a list of these 30 people and just say, yeah, here's these voiceover artists we've got. Could you just pick one? And it's really difficult.
Yes.
To pick one. Yeah. And that's why I just, are you happy with it? And I think to say no, actually, I would have preferred it if they did. I think it's a fair thing. But yeah, I scrolled through these 30 odd people, and I was thinking, is that a good representation of this business or whatever? And I think it must be quite a difficult thing to pair a voice with a book.
It really is, yeah.
Haven't you ended up doing it yourself? I swear.
I have. Yeah. And because actually I took so long deciding that the telephone guys turned up to install, and I thought, I haven't picked one yet. So I had to record it on the hoof. Really, archaic, literally by holding the phone and pressing buttons and saying, so yeah, I've recorded my own. But it's a temporary
thing. I can't believe you didn't ask Aaron. I mean, the voice and videos behind all of our bits for Let's Go Read. Natural speaker.
But you consider, Chris. I haven't made it a list of 30.
I mean, think of the commission you'd get every time they had a call. I mean,
you'd have charged me as well.
You ring it up 10 times a day. I think this is a perfect time to ask this question, actually. What's the one book that sort of changed everything for you, whether that's sort of in childhood or later life? Do you remember one book that sort of put you back into reading or writing? Or
I think the book that I tend to mention the most, and I haven't read it since I was a child, so it's not a book that I have reread, but it is Charlotte's Web.
Charlotte's Web.
Yeah, because it made me cry when I was 9 years old, and that was the first book that made me cry. So it just, I was so shocked that a book. I was shocked that. Have you read it?
See, I've never read that. It's really bad. I need to read it.
Well, it is. I bought another edition to reread, and I've only read the beginning. I haven't finished it. But I remember what happens is really sad, and it's kind of, it makes sense, but it shocked me, and I couldn't believe that the author's done this. But it all ends happily, and that made me realise how powerful books can be. Really, I think it made me realise, oh God, this book's just made me cry. That's amazing. I wasn't happy about it, but it was just started me off from reading, really. So I don't think there was a huge amount of choice of books. I actually have a book, because I've been doing school visits online today. You're probably all too young. Do you remember these books? Now, this is Death Trap Dungeon. They are.
No.
They're fighting fantasy game books. They've reissued them. And these are brilliant, I think, for reluctant readers, because you choose what's going to happen next.
Oh, yes. I've read ones like that as a kid. Yeah, they were great.
Yeah. These were brilliant, and these again kept me on the edge of my seat, because I literally felt like if I turned the wrong way, I was going to die.
That's always kept your thumb in the page you were just on, so you go, well, I haven't taken my thumb out yet. I can go back and take a different route. Yeah,
I did that, and I just looked. Oh no, I won't go that way. And then you'd go, oh, and I don't know if they felt like I was there being killed by goblins and things. And then there's also dice that you had to have a combat with somebody and roll dice, and if you died, then you had to go back to the beginning, and they were like a computer game in a book form. So that was another big thing I loved. So those, and it's kind of one of those books that people don't know about, but that really had a big effect on me. And then Roald Dahl's older stories, these actually, he wrote short stories, Tales of the Unexpected short stories, and when I was a teenager, they were on the telly, and also Alfred Hitchcock Presents. So they were all short stories with twists, or The Twilight Zone, all those kind of things that were set in the real world, pretty much. And then something really unexpected happened at the end. And every time I watched them, I couldn't see the twist coming. And they stayed with me. Really brilliant stories. There's actually, talking about YouTube, you can go down a huge, they're all on there, I think.
Really?
So, yeah. And so that made me think, I want to write stories with twists in them. So you're not really sure what's happening, and then you're really surprised. So lots of, that was my biggest reads and things, really.
Okay, so a lot of what we do is we try and encourage families to spend time together sharing books. So do you have any sort of top tips for engaging children reading, whether there's something that worked for your own children or you found work for others?
I think I'm sorry, I haven't read to my children for a long time now, but I remember my son loved being read to, but it was more short books. So we didn't really read lots of chapter books. We didn't carry on to the next. It was like just short books and the same books over and over again, which can be tedious. And then my daughter loved reading herself. So I would try to read, and she would just want to read it to me, which was hard. But I think the books that I remember really, really enjoying with my children are, I've forgotten the name of it now, that one, The Duck Stuck in the Muck. The Duck in the Truck Stuck in the Muck.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Which is a brilliant book. And also The Snail and the Whale, which is a Julia Donaldson book. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't kind of go down the Gruffalo route. That was and I still love that book today. I can read that out loud anytime. It's a beautiful book, yes. And I've kept the books that they loved as kids. I will keep them forever, really. And sorry.
Go on, you go.
No, I was going to say there's a book called Dear Zoo. I went to the zoo and open the flat books and those things.
It's a favourite in this household. In fact, I have to have a second copy just in case.
Really? Yeah. And I think mine are all tattered and everything from their little fingers going all over them. So I think my tips would be, I suppose you want them to read something that they want to read, but you also want to find something new for them as well, don't you? I think that's what I was always trying to say. Well, how about we put Thomas the Tank Engine away tonight and we try this one? Something that we haven't read this one for 57 times.
Chris's life, isn't it, Chris? Right,
it is, my son loves Thomas. Absolutely does. The thing is, I growing up was a fan of Thomas as well, so it kind of rekindles something in you. And in my case, of course, it was the original TV series of Ringo Starr and the Little Model Railway. Yeah. And of course, in my parents' garage was a model railway anyway. So of course you kind of connected the two. So now I'm like, as an adult, I encourage Thomas the Tank Engine. The thing is, modern Thomas is obviously very different.
Yes,
and you can kind of see it in his eyes as well that he just starts to, I don't know, he's addicted. It's probably the word I would use. So we kind of wean him off with audiobooks and other bits. And saying that, right now there is a gigantic cardboard train in my living room, which my brother sent Dougie. And it's absolutely huge, and you paint it yourself. So we're not weaning him off trains very well. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, it is hard. I think it is hard with them, and also I think as a parent, looking not all. I know I've just mentioned some real classics there, but maybe not going for some classics and looking in the library for something, not the books that are in the supermarkets as much, even though I've been in supermarkets, but going for books that are a bit different, especially if your parents are middle grade children that age. There's so much variety.
Well, that's I think part of the subscription that we offer is that we are trying to find that, well, Aaron mainly is trying to find these books that you wouldn't just kind of go and grab necessarily, and we're trying to also deliver different genres all the time, which hopefully will engage with the children, and then the parents can say, actually, my child really liked that, and it might just then spark their interest in reading and actually reading about that genre. I don't know. But I think diversity in what we're sending is the key for us. Even at Christmas, the cliche that that where we buy the books from, we're saying, send you some Christmas titles that would be, and I said, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to just fall into the trap of just sending Christmas books because it's Christmas. We still want to send the best books the best books in the world, we've always called it. And Aaron and the team hopefully pick out some gems. I mean, we certainly had amazing feedback on every book that we've sent so far.
Brilliant.
Yours included, obviously. So that's really, really good. And when your children were growing up, obviously it seems like a probably distant memory now, because they've forgotten that you exist and they're in their bedrooms talking to their friends. Just when's dinner and I need a lift here. What was the reading routine like mainly about when you were kids? Because you're reading to them, and you said that your daughter tried to start reading to you, but did you start by reading to them early, or literally as soon as you felt it was ready?
Introduced those heavy card books and the soft books early on, really, and then library trips. We used to go to the library a lot, and so I encouraged them to do that as well. And it's funny because my son was really into reading, my daughter not so much. So he read and read and read and would read beyond his age, and then introduce me to books that he's read that he really loved.
Amazing.
Which is lovely, until he hit about 14 and he stopped reading completely. Hopefully he'll go back to it. And whereas my daughter does love reading, but she takes a long time to read a book, or she'll read a book little, dip into it now and again. But I think, so I've always read. I think they've always seen me reading. They've always seen me with books. And I talk to them about books that I've read, or tried to, or I did do when they talk to me.
Do you think that's really important then, in terms of role modeling? Then do you think that's
so? Yeah, well, I remember that from my dad. My dad and my mum actually were big readers, but I remember talking to my dad a lot about books that he'd like, sharing the books, and I would share with books I'd read with him and him with me. His would read horror books or big like Wilbur Smith books, and I'd go on to read them. And so I try and do that I did try to do that before, when they were much younger. And also because I'm in the industry now, it really helps that I'm seeing a lot more of the books that are out there straight away.
Yeah.
So I probably, as a parent, if I wasn't an author, I'd probably miss them in a way, unless you go into a really good bookshop. So I think that's important to realise what's there, and also non-fiction books. My daughter actually loved reading books about science and history books. So don't always think you have to read a fiction book to be a reader. It could be anything. And I grew up reading the Beano. That was one of my biggest things. I loved the Beano, and my daughter loves the Beano as well. So it's I think you can't be too snobby about it reading, but you also need to maybe suggest things, because kids do tend to want to repeat and stay with what they know, don't they? So it's nice to kind of throw something different in there now and again.
Do your children read your books that you write? Are they?
Yes, actually, they do. Although my son stopped about book 3, so he's read Owen and the Soldier and the shorter ones. So and they're really good to talk about ideas, and I do ask them things. My daughter's read them all. So she's read them all. So my son, he's 18 now, so he's not kind of the target audience. Oh, my daughter actually, she's 15, so they're both too old really for the books in a way, but they read most of them.
Have you said that you spoke to them a bit about your books? Did you ever get to a point in a book where you just completely stuck and just thought, I'm going to ask the kids something? Or
all the time. I'm writing a book at the moment, and I was in the car, funny enough, driving my son somewhere, and said to him, can I talk to you, because he's trapped, he can't go anywhere.
Lock the doors.
Put his headphones out. I always ask, my son's got a really good he's really keen on films, so and I'm a big film fan, and so books have gone now, and we're now sharing films with each other, which is great when your children get to the age when they can watch Alien and things like that. It's just and you can you must watch Reservoir Dogs, Ben, you really like it, those things that you sort of know one day they're going to enjoy. And we've got very similar tastes in sort of music and films and things, so I asked for his opinion on, there's because I'm predominantly a mystery writer, so the book I'm writing at the moment, there's it's kind of like there's an escape room in there. I don't know if when your children are old enough, you must take them to escape rooms, because they're brilliant for any age. When they get to a certain... I'm a big fan of escape rooms. Oh, I love them. And and that's something that's really good to do, isn't it, outside of screens and stuff. So I've stolen that idea, and I've written a book with an old hotel, and in the 1950s a kind of I guess a Christie type author disappears in the 1950s. So, and some kids realize the room's kind of a bit like an escape room, and they need to solve things in there. So I was stuck on a clue, and I asked Ben about, can you help, with this idea? What do you think of it? And he says, he's honest. He did like this particular one, but he would always say, no, that's not going to work. You need to do this and this and this. So I do ask them both really for their opinion.
No, it's cool, especially now that sort of age where you can have a proper adult conversation and just say, like this idea, and what do you think?
I had something the other way in one of my books. I had a teacher calling this a pupil by their surname. Okay. So I know it's quite public school, but it was just a PE teacher calling. And then the editor said, I don't think they would do this. It's quite old fashioned. So I asked my kids, do they do this? And my daughter said yes. She's got a teacher.
Actually, from what I remember, PE teachers used to do it all the time.
I think it is a bit.
No,
like over here kind of thing.
They could never do it with me. Not with Gladstone Smith. It took too long. Shortened to Smith. Something of that nature. But what's that?
It says Smythe.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was always fun. So getting football shirts with my name on was never too clever either.
No.
Cost too much. Get it shortened to GS. That's it. That's all you can have. One thing that we like to really talk about as three parents is parenting fails, where you just think, oh my God, I can't believe that I've done that or that's happened. And we'd just like to ask if there's anything that sticks out in your memory of when your kids were growing up, or still now, if you've got any big howlers, any big parenting fails that you might have.
Oh, I did one tonight actually. So I picked up my daughter. And when we drove past a boy in her class, and she said, "Oh, there's Sam, bib," and so I bibbed, and then and I've never met this chap, and I waved, and he looked and went, and then I said, "Oh, he didn't see you," because I leant forward. He didn't see my daughter; he just saw me, this middle-aged woman waving from her car, beeping at me. Bless him, he waved back, and then she had to text him, say that was me, but I don't know if and she said, "No, I didn't see you at all. You just saw this person." The thing that caused me, I think, one of the most stress of when I was younger is having to dress up in school, and that kind of coming dressed as a Egyptian or coming dressed as a I hate that. And most of my friends were brilliant at it, at suddenly knocking together a costume in a couple of hours. And I remember when my children were in infant school, they had an Easter bonnet competition, and the letter did say your child needs to decorate the hat themselves, and I took that to be what it should have happened. So my children went to school basically with practically shoe boxes on their heads tied with ribbon, with like terrible drawings of rabbits, and proudly walked to school. And then of course all the kids turned up with these beautiful bonnets with little chicks on that clearly the adults had done. And I remember the teacher laughed, like seeing her going laughing at my kids' hats, and luckily they were oblivious to it, but I was really mortified that I hadn't done that. So I really was glad to leave all that behind in primary school. The dressing up, the novelty quickly wore off. The first time they do it, oh, this is wonderful, and then you'd groan, oh no, they're doing a Tudor day, I've got to get a Tudor outfit. You've got all that to come, Mark.
Well, I think. Luckily Aaron, we've got Aaron as a friend in our life, so I'll just say, what would you do?
Don't rely on me. My child would go with a top to its head. Definitely.
I've seen. The thing is, I think you focus too much on what you go dressed as when it's like World Book Day and stuff. Seriously committed to a point I didn't even recognise it was you. I saw you.
So you're a teacher, Aaron, aren't you?
Yes.
And you all dress up. Did the teachers all dress up?
Yeah, so we had World Book Day, obviously. March. And I went as, I think you know the author, Maz Evans.
Yes, I know Maz. Yes.
Yeah. Well, she came to our school a few years ago. She's absolutely brilliant.
She's
I decided to dress up as Zeus from her Who Let the Gods Out, because I swear I read somewhere that he wears the most horrendous shirts or Hawaiian shirts or something like that. So I thought, right, I'm going to rock the worst shirt I can. So I had this horrible one that I actually had my brother's stag do that had sort of cats in a taco. It's really weird. All around the school.
It was an Amazon last minute purchase.
And Lisa, I don't know if you know, I think you might, Emma Carroll we had on the day. And I was interviewing her, obviously, with the whole school online. And, and I didn't realise that I was, every question she was answering, I was stroking my beard. I didn't realise it. Apparently, the rest of the teachers were in hysterics, because I was just like,
been watching Chris, I think.
If you have a beard, you do. It's something to do. It's something to do. Yeah.
Something intellectual about stroking a beard as well.
You get wise.
Well, usually we introduced by the amount of facial hair that we have.
I know. I've just given mine a bit of a trim, so I've put myself out of order, I think.
My personality is completely set by my beard.
Absolutely, wouldn't have it any other way. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely speaking to you, and I look forward to finishing the book with my daughter Ava. Although to be fair, after getting about 15-16 pages in, I might just have a read myself tonight. And prep myself for the questions. I'm sure that I will. Aaron's known me for a very long time.
Yeah, Mark's the sort of person, when we go for a night out, he gets very emotional. He's got this weird habit of finding a roundabout. He sits in the middle of it, starts crying.
That's happened once, to be fair, and I've never lived it down.
So because you didn't know how to get off, Mark?
No, I think talking irresponsibly, it was probably the bottle of gin that I had, to be fair. Lisa. So yeah, it wasn't just the fact that I'm just emotionally ruined. It's gin, all gin fueled.
Other than wondering if
I want water tonight, especially.
Well done. I would say, other than wondering if Mark is an alcoholic, do you have any questions for the three of us?
I wanted to know how it is all going. How is Let's Go Read going? Are you enjoying it? And
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's so Aaron and I were first, and then we met Chris. And actually, it's funny, but we've not actually physically seen Chris in the flesh. For all we know, he doesn't even. He's just literally just kind of this
hologram.
This thing hologram in a room with a blue shirt, occasionally with a red line, occasionally with a blue line. That we've never met. But yeah, we met Chris through the website that he was kind of working on for us, and we found him so valuable. And Chris really loved the project.
I was customer number one.
Absolutely.
So did I feel that it was a good idea, because I don't have the time to go and find a book, and I really want to read to my son. I really want to encourage it, but I guess it's one of those modern problems, is that we've got we've got the means, but we don't. You could buy the wrong book, or you forget to buy a book, or in my case, at the train station on the way home, I pick up something in Smith's magazine as a bright Thomas the Tank Engine magazine instead. But because the risk of buying the wrong book, even though they could be the same price as a magazine these days, if not a magazine is more. You just don't. I didn't want the commitment, and what the guys put together, I just thought, this is fantastic. I get to cheat. I don't have to think. It provides activity. It provides book. It's all of those things that you tell yourself is very, very important. You'd struggle to find a parent who's going to say, well, reading isn't important, and if you do, you don't think your child's imagination is worth it, and you go, but the thing is, and then you say, well, do you find the time to read? No, we don't. Have you bought a book recently? No, we haven't. And I'm guilty 100% of that. So it's when we ask, how's it going, I think if the rest of our subscribers are as happy as I am, in terms of the result being that I get to cheat, I can still be that good parent, even if I don't have to kind of fill in those gaps. And obviously I get the VIP treatment, because I get to know some of the books beforehand, and Aaron will give some tips here and there, and every now and again, Mark will give me an impression of an accent or voice that I can. I just don't know. The truth there is that Mark can do an accent or a voice, and I feel much better about the fact that I can't. And that is probably one of the most reassuring things, is knowing that you're not the only one who struggles to get a routine to read to your child, or it's the same book again and again, or the fact that you think that you might not be reading the right books, or the books in the right accent. And I've got to say that my parents read books absolutely fine, but it's a strange amount of pressure when you're reading a book to give it justification to this 2-year-old, to this 5-year-old who actually doesn't care, but you still take a lot of pride in Mark's case, a French accent, and you kind of just work from there.
Huge pride.
I've insulted the accent now, but I think I think it's going well.
Yeah, I think the business is going well. I mean, to be honest, we were never prepared to burn cash, to throw money at it, just to get it out there, because actually the product, when it's in people's hands, when it arrives through the door and it's personalized to the child's name, it is. I mean, Aaron would say it's like receiving a Christmas present every once a month, and that's the feeling. I mean, the business was started basically because I overheard Aaron reading to his daughter Molly at the time, and Aaron is quite animated and he get quite involved with the characters, and I could overhear it. And I just, when he came back, I said I'd love to be able to do that when I read to Ava, and we just started talking about it, and it kind of came from there. But to be honest, since Chris has come on board, the product itself, we spent a lot of time shaping it and changing it, and we've added reading reward charts and stickers to go with the activities. And I mean, we feel it represents amazing value for money, but it's also the fact that the books are chosen. Because like Chris, I would be going through into a supermarket on my way home from work, and I'd be, I should see a book on a shelf, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But it's an impulse buy. Then it's not thought out, and it's you
can sort of tell the difference. With some of the recent books, like Dougie will pick up a book that the team have chosen several times, but the magazine that I bought is already long gone. And I think I'm sure people do have natural success, and I'm sure a lot of people could go and choose the perfect children's book that their kid will kind of latch onto, but that isn't everyone. And it's a massive weight off your shoulders to some degree. And obviously the activities month on month have been great as well, because what we were saying before, isn't it, that the activities aren't just random activities. Their idea is to draw out the imagination and the adventure of the book that's already taken place, to kind of keep it going. So that the norm we've spoken to parents so far is read the book, do the activities, read the book again. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
and you think
that is good. That's really good.
I think as a child I wouldn't have read the same book twice.
No.
Because I'll just give you an idea of the sort of things we're trying to do, Lisa. So for your book, you've got the teacher who says, you all have an opinion, let's hear it. One of the things we're trying to do is obviously get families talking, whether that's talking about the book or other things. So we had sort of like a funk style activity where they discuss what would happen if books were banned in the future, what color is Saturday, just these questions, just get families talking. So that was just something different we wanted to try and include in the activity book. It was just comment in the book that gave us the idea to go, actually that's something we could do. And even stuff like we've got Owen's bookshelf, what books would be on it. I'd be quite interested to know what you could imagine him reading, actually.
Gosh, I think he'd read Charlotte's Web. I can imagine him reading Charlotte's Web. Maybe not the Death Trap Dungeon. I'm trying to think, actually. I imagine he would probably read kind of historical novels, maybe, because of maybe the war, maybe Emma Carroll's books. And have you read Ross Montgomery's The Midnight Guardians?
No.
That's a really good book. So that's a boy who's been evacuated, it's very kind of a bit like Narnia book. It's really, really good. Yeah, it was out. Unfortunately, it came out, I think, just when it went into the last lockdown, and it was a Waterstones Book of the Month.
Yeah. That's one thing that we've been trying to do is when we've been talking to publishers about what we're doing, is their automatic thing is right. What's the new the new books that you want coming out? And so actually, we want some of the hidden gems that might have got missed because of things like lockdown. There was one book I read a few months ago that literally got launched in the first lockdown and didn't do as well as they would hope because of obviously the situation. But it's an incredible book. And it's one of those where it's just we've got to try and get it into as many children's hands as we can. That's kind of what we want to do for.
What book was that, out of interest?
That was a Reggie Yates.
Right. Yes.
Yates and, it's hilarious. They have they're trying to find his dad, and they end up having an onion eating competition in Wales and things like that. It's just really funny, funny book, and that's a really good one. I swear it's Reggie Yates. I swear that's what it's called.
Rings a bell. Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, that's really good. And that's what we're trying to do as well as part of it. It's just trying to either, whether it is new books or whether it's some slightly older ones, just trying to vary up what goes through, into the hands of children. We also, one thing that inspired what we wanted to do was hearing that horrifying statistic about nearly 400,000 children don't own their own book.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and I've met kids that have said this is the first book I've had. Have got older children like in high schools. Yeah, and I've also had children queuing up to have a book signed and then given me just a book that they happen to own because they couldn't buy my book, so they've just bought a tatty old book from the shelf. And I've had to say, well, I didn't write this book, but they said, oh, well, can you just sign it anyway? And so I just sign a book for them. So it's
awful.
So it is. And I don't know, I mean, I'm very passionate about libraries as well, and using the libraries and using this amazing resource we all have, and because it's going to go, I'm sure, well, hopefully it won't, but just that there's so much there, isn't there, that you can get from the library we don't realize. And and online as well, ebooks, you can get an ebook through the library, and like I was saying, audiobooks earlier. So
no, it'd certainly be a shame if the libraries were to go. It would. I know you said you spent a lot of time there when the kids were small.
Yes, and that's a really lovely place to go, and they can just rummage around and find the books, and they take armfuls home again, and then they go through them all. That's probably something we did more than buying. Well, I didn't really buy a great deal of books when I was little, so it was going backwards and forwards to the library really, and it was a nice thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Lisa. It's been really lovely speaking to you. And obviously this is our fourth effort, so apologies if it's just three bearded guys talking rubbish. But it's lovely talking about what you've done and bringing up your kids and your writing and to share our subscription ideas with you, because we really strongly believe in it, and it's lovely that we've got books like yours that we can include. Brilliant. Yeah, it's lovely. Thank you. I wish you all the best of luck with it. And thank you. Yeah, I'm sure we'll go from strength to strength. So let's hope so. Let's hope so. Thank you so much. Brilliant. Okay, have a good evening. All right, Lisa, have a lovely evening. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye. Bye.